Good morning. Good morning. Yesterday at choir rehearsal, I shared with them just how proud I was of them for learning how to be a virtual choir the last year and a half. And then we have the challenge in the last 3 weeks of learning how to sing with masks on, socially distanced. And they've done a great job, but it's still difficult to hear all of the words all the time. So I'm going to read you the words that we're going to be singing for our introit. In this very room, there's quite enough love for one like me. And in this very room, there's quite enough joy for one like me. And there's quite enough hope and quite enough power to take away any gloom, for we are together in this very room. And in this very room, there's quite enough love for all the world. And in this very room, there's quite enough joy for all the world. And there's quite enough hope and quite enough power to take away any gloom, for we are together in this very room.
In this very room, there's quite enough love for one like me. And in this very room, there's quite enough joy for one like me. And there's quite enough hope and quite enough power to chase away any gloom, for we are together. In this very and in this very room, there's quite enough love for us. And in this very room, there's quite enough joy for all of us. And there's quite enough hope and quite enough power to chase away any gloom, for we are together. In this very room. And in this very room, there's quite enough love for all the world. And in this very room, there's quite enough joy for all the world. And there's quite enough hope and quite enough power to chase away any gloom, for we are together. In this very room.
Oh, my goddess. It's so good to see you. You are exceeding my expectations. Today's invocation comes from the Reverend Alicia Ford, who served as a mentor to me in my formation as a UU minister. She writes, "In our covenantal faith, we abide not by creeds, but by negotiated and renegotiated bonds that hold us together in relationship. And we attend deeply to the question, how are we together? We ask, how do we behave toward ourselves and others in ways that demonstrate our commitment to affirming the inherent worth and the inherent dignity of each and every one of us? We, who believe that revelation is not sealed and is continually unfolding, are writing sacred texts with our very lives, with our smallest actions. And our willingness to be invitational to these things contributes volumes to our sacred living texts. Our willingness to extend a welcome, seeing the humanity and the divinity in another, honoring their culture, identities, stories, and deeply held truths, is part of what it means to embody our faith, this inclusive and welcoming faith. In our hands is the power to craft a compelling narrative of extraordinary respect, of welcome, and transformational community for our Unitarian Universalist present and our future to come. Come, come, whoever you are. Our doors are open. May we affirm this truth with our acts of hospitality. And in our midst, this very midst, in this very room, may there always be room for the other, the new, and for more. We know how long it's been, about 18 months since we've gathered. So how do we pass the peace? I welcome you to look at your neighbor, someone close enough that you can see and exchange a glance with. Perhaps you'll want to press your hands to your heart as Susan did and make a respectful bow. That's a wonderful greeting and a passing of peace. Perhaps you just want to light up your eyes above this masked mouth and smile with your eyes. Maybe you just want to bow your head in respect. Let's pass the peace. I'm turning it over to you.
Good morning, and welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of San Antonio. My name is Esperanza Garza-Danweber. I am a member of the worship committees and the religious education committees, and I've been a member of this church for about 13 years. So our weekly worship is where we connect, share information and inspiration. To begin, let's acknowledge this geographic place where we are currently located, the home of and traditional lands of Guahuitecan people, original and indigenous stewards of this land, which we all belong, now called Bexar County and San Antonio, Texas. Let us also recognize that many of the indigenous peoples, even today, have not been recognized by our federal government, and yet they continue to live with and among us as vibrant and vital contributors to our communities. We are comprised of a diverse and multicultural community and communities. At our church, we aspire to believe and act in a universal love that binds us in mutual care and affection, especially in our work for justice for all and for our planet. Our faith is all-inclusive, and all means all, y'all. If you are new to us or visiting for the first time, we would love to hear from you. Please fill out a visitor's card in your pews or whatever they have online. Wherever you are on your life's journey, we hope you find a place with us.
Please stand if you're willing and able to sing hymn number 1, May Nothing Evil Cross This Door.
Good morning. My name's David Rodriguez. I've been a member since 2005 and currently the chair for the membership committee. The flaming chalice unites our members in worship and symbolizes the spirit of our faith. Today's chalice lighting words remind us that we reside on a spinning planet in an orbit around our central star, the sun. a movement leading us toward another season. It's a season of regathering and celebrating our togetherness as we renew the bonds between us. With hearts and hands and minds open, we hold on to love and each other as we grow into beloved community. We are called as Unitarian Universalists to build the beloved community where all are welcome as blessings, and the human family lives in forgiveness and grace, whole and reconciled.
We know that this aim takes work, and so we are committed to live and behave as a community in covenant. Let us recite our covenant that articulates our guidelines and binds us together in community. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other.
Are the new day. I will love you more than me and more than yesterday. If you can but prove to me you are the new day. Send the sun in time for dawn. Let the birds all hail the morning. Love of life will urge me say, you are the new day. When I lay me down at night, knowing we must pay, that this night might stay yesterday. Thoughts that we as humans small could slow worlds and end it all, lie around me where they fall before the new day. One more day when time is running out for everyone, like a breath I knew would come, I reach for the new day. Hope is my philosophy, just needs words in which to be. Love of life means hope for me, born on a new day. You are the new day.
it has been way, way too long since we have performed our weekly ritual of coming forward in silence and in respect and lighting candles of joys and sorrows. Are you ready for this today? For ours is a welcoming community where we find connection, a spiritual community where we come fully alive. Ours is a sharing community where our joys are amplified, a caring community where our sorrows are heard and held in compassion. Especially at this time of so much complexity, may we especially listen more deeply and grow more involved and connected to one another. And so, as a way of doing this, I'm going to invite all of you who would like to come forward down the side aisles and light a candle. And I invite you to return up the center or the far aisles so that we can keep some spacious social distancing between us. And while you're in line, please be aware of your 6-foot spacing. So let us join silently, whether processing forward or not, and light candles while Jaime plays our meditation music. Let's all take a deep, cleansing breath. Bring it on in and let it go, filtered through these masks. For all our joys, our sorrows, our concerns, may we feel empathy and compassion. And may this caring permeating this very room, all of our bodies, all of our breaths, all of our minds, all of our spirits, all that we are, and all that we may ever become, offer a space of deep kindness, loving, and just action. Amen. Dr. Sherry Philbaum is going to tell us a story, and I guess we need to open up those doors. Maybe some of the ushers and greeters and folks back there can, because we have children out in our foyer.
Hello, children. Can y'all hear me from here? To be on the camera, I have to stay here, but I can get closer if I need to. Okay. So this morning, I'm going to tell you a story having to do a little bit with our water communion. This story takes place in a time long ago and far away, and there was a large village that had had a very good, successful harvest time. And the head elder of the village was so happy because he had had such a successful harvest, and he was being very, very prosperous, and everything was wonderful. He decided to express his gratitude by inviting everyone in the entire village to a feast at his house at his expense. He was going to supply almost everything for this big feast, except for just one thing. So he called the church council. He called the village council together, and he said, okay, I'm going to give a big feast to everyone in the whole village, and I'm going to supply the venue. It's going to be at my mansion, on my estate, on my grounds. I'm going to supply all of the delicious food, and I'm going to supply the entertainment. There's going to be jugglers, comedians, dancers, all that stuff. The only thing I would like you, village council, to supply is the wine. Can you do that? And the village council said, oh, sure, yes, we will do that. How about this? There are 10 of us. How about if each of us brings one large jug of wine, and we will put it all into a communal vat at the feast that everybody can share in? And they all agreed that they would all supply the wine, one big jar each, to be poured into a communal vat. Well, almost as soon as that meeting got out, one of the council members, we'll call him Joe, started to think about this big vat of wine or jar of wine that he was supposed to bring. And he started having second thoughts. He thought, oh, I don't have a lot of wine right now, and I really don't want to go out and spend the money for a bunch of wine right now. And he told his concern to his wife, and his wife said, you know, I agree with you. That's kind of a big ask right now for us. But what can we do? We already promised. And then just a few minutes later, the wife said, how about this? It's all going to go into a communal vat, right? So do you think anyone will notice if one of the jars is water? And the husband said, well, that's brilliant. Of course not. It'll be 9 parts wine, 1 part water. What could go wrong? We'll save lots of money. So the day of the feast came, and they had their jug that they had filled with water, and they went to the feast, and they were welcomed by the village elder, who welcomed everybody and said, just please pour your wine donation into this big vat over here, and then enjoy the party. And so this couple enjoyed the party. They ate. Well, first of all, they enjoyed the entertainment, the jugglers and everything, and then it was time to sit down to the feast. And the elder of the village stood at the head of the very, very large hall with everybody in it. Everyone had been served a cup and some food and gave thanks to everyone for the harvest, gave thanks to the beings that they prayed to for the harvest, and then lifted his glass in a toast and invited everyone to drink of the wine before they had their meal. And everyone took a sip from their glass. And there was silence because Joe tasted only water. And he and his wife looked at each other, and they both knew what had happened. Everybody had had the same idea, and the entire council had brought water. But they all kind of looked at each other and continued to sip from their cups as if it were the finest wine, as if nothing had happened. But of course, the word got out into the village, and from then on there was a saying, if you want to drink wine, you have to bring it also. Okay. Now that story comes from both Africa and China, and a similar story is told in other parts of the world. And this tells us that maybe there's some common universal wisdom to that story. Maybe something about the importance of everybody contributing, everybody doing what they can, the importance of the community. Now this morning, everyone was invited to bring water, so I hope you brought that and not wine, because it has to do with what's appropriate. Water is very essential for our life, and today we're going to have the water communion, where the adults in the sanctuary will put their water into a common bowl, symbolizing the merging of our individualities in a community. Now, right now, the children cannot be with us, so the children will have a separate water communion outside, and afterwards I will bring their water in, and at the water communion I will pour it into the common bowl. And that will symbolize that while we have to be physically separated a little bit right now, we are still part of one community. So children in the foyer, the choir is now going to sing you a song that you may remember from previous times, and then we'll meet outside for our water communion.
It's time now for our invitation to generosity. Quaker teacher Parker Palmer writes in his book, The Active Life, the quality of our active lives depends heavily on whether we assume a world of scarcity or a world of abundance. Let's ask further questions, which may help us divine what he's saying. Do we inhabit a universe where the basic things that people need, food, shelter, clothing, a sense of respect and competence and of being loved, are ample? Or is this a universe where these things are in short supply, available only to those who have the power? You see, the nature of our action will be heavily conditioned by the way we answer these questions for ourselves, what kinds of beliefs we hold within our own lives. In a universe of scarcity, only people who know the science and skill of competing and making war will be able to survive. But in a universe of abundance, acts of generosity and of community become not only possible, but are fruitful as well. Today, our ushers will pass our offertory baskets. And for those of you viewing online, we invite you to make a contribution on our website, uusat.org, under the link Give on our homepage. You may use a credit card or debit card or checking or savings account, or send a check into our office made out to First UU. For those 100 or more of you gathered in here today, it's great to receive your tangible touch in the offertory basket. May we enjoy an extraordinary song.
Moon river, wider than a mile, I'm crossing you in style someday. Old dream maker, you heartbreaker, wherever you're going, I'm going your way. Two drifters off to see the world. There's such a lot of world to see. We're after the same rainbow's hand, waiting round the bend, my huckleberry friend, Moon River and me. Moon River, wider than a mile, I'm crossing you in style someday. Old dream maker, you heartbreaker, wherever you're going, I'm going your way. Two drifters off to see the world. There's such a lot of world to see. We're after the same rainbow's end, waiting round the bend, my huckleberry friend, Moon River and me.
Prayer comes from the Reverend Angela Herrera, minister of our sister UU congregation in Albuquerque, New Mexico. O source of love and wisdom, source of life, great mystery. Help us to see the overflowing abundance of our lives, the abundance in all of nature in which we live and are interdependent. Help us to see the abundance of love, generosity, and meaning that overflows in this very room. Help us to transcend the either-or limited scarcity thinking about gender, ability, nationality, culture, or race. And to see that there are myriad abundant ways of being, that they are beautiful in their own spectacular ways. Help us to see that there is enough for ourselves and for all people, and to live fully into that truth. May our blessings be multiplied through our sharing of them. Amen. I'm sure we've all thrown a stone into a body of water. And if the water's calm, this action creates ripples, a series of expanding circular waves. How does our ingathering water communion today exemplify the ripple effect in which we influence each other and our wider community and our entire world and planet? Now, in the context of our church, we may not clearly see these rippling concentric circles due to all of the conflicts and complexities that are part of our personal and pandemic experiences. You see, conflicts and complexities comprise a large part of our experiences, and we see that throughout our wider communities and, of course, our global conditions. After all, when has there been a time that we can recall where there was less trust in all levels of life? People will point fingers and condemn at the drop of a hat. For example, to a president issuing a call for vaccinations. We don't like top-down control, and we don't like mandates. Yet, let's face it, even from the other side, if we were to try to do this through grassroots, which is what's been going on the past year or so, all kinds of trusted people in the community saying, please, consider vaccinations. Consider wearing a mask. Consider social distancing. Consider the common good. Even summoning enough trust in the grassroots processes to affect any positive results doesn't seem to be working. People just don't trust. And that is a real problem. Could it be that somehow this year's water communion, with its metaphorical message of unity and equanimity, is more needed now than ever as a potential antidote to the struggles and challenges and distrust that many of us have endured in this vast and restless sea of pandemia these past 18 months or so? Finding a common life and shared experiences alongside 400 members and a few additional 100 friends of this congregation even with many of us sharing common values and habituated connections, still often makes it difficult for us to distinguish the impact of our individual actions, of the stone in the pool that many of us see ourselves as. It's difficult to distinguish that from others around us. And at times, this can feel like we're a little irrelevant, or maybe more disconnected from one another than we thought we were. Over time, however, I have come to believe and made it my mission in life to build community, because I think that all human beings have something akin to that of the sponge, particularly in a church community. Now, I don't say lightly that we're sponges, because I want to point out to you how we soak up the influences from one another. So what more do I mean when I call us sponges? Among our membership and friends of open-minded and open-hearted people we are certainly that demographic. And we are especially vulnerable to emotions and feelings that surround us. As our own Dr. Allison Bess reminded us last week, sometimes even positivity can appear to be toxic when it is not addressed appropriately. And above all, I want my message today to help us to see how we can appropriately affect one another and soak up things from one another as sponges. Our every action, word, or gesture inevitably creates ripples, even if its impact is not evident at first perception. And unfortunately, one of these powerful effects that we have on each other is the influence of stress. We are often not aware of how susceptible we are to the tension and anxiety of those around us. We are living in a very anxious system in this country and in this world. And each time that we internalize the stress or negativity of another person, we experience that ripple effect. Although sometimes it doesn't feel like a ripple, it feels more like a tsunami wave, if you know what I mean. Now, it's unrealistic to believe that we can simply overcome this innate inclination to be influenced by each other. And especially as a minister, I must be keenly aware of the influences that can be imposed simply by whether I'm present or not, whether I'm anxious or not. Perhaps there's a way to channel our mirroring tendencies into something more fruitful for both ourselves and those around us. What if we decided to intentionally internalize other people's good values, positive contributions that they're making, instead of subconsciously or unconsciously absorbing so much stress? Now, that takes a pretty well-honed skill of understanding, of discerning what to absorb and what not to. the ability to benefit from someone else in a positive way, in a generous way, in a loving way, in a compassionate way, can be for us an inexhaustible source of these joys of life. I'm trying to address this in a way that is mindful, that is conscious, to get it out from under the rug. Many people harbor the notion that happiness is dependent strictly upon external circumstances and on meeting those expectations. But I'll tell you, life is too short to wait for external conditions to become better or for our expectations to become fulfilled. And if you're somehow impacted so that you're feeling low and anxious, I want to invite you to do what I've done the past 3 weeks since breaking my hip, and that is to spend some time alone. I feel safe. Don't we know the experience of how positive isolation can be when the world has us down? And we believe that this kind of self-care and isolation is truly what we need. And of course, there's time when seclusion is necessary. In moments of fear, trauma, pain, sadness, or simply because we trust ourselves enough to give us self-care in order to restore our balance and our energy. But let's not forget the healing powers of empathetic connection to one another. That's the sponginess I want to talk about here and conclude with. This kind of empathy must be intentionally cultivated. We must deliberately decide to broaden our perspectives so to experience that goodness that comes from other people around us. We must make a connection somehow that when other people have reasons to smile, we might find a reason to smile too. After all, we are all about our connections to one another here. Congregational polls throughout all religious traditions determine that the number one reason people get together to do church or temple or mosque is our connections to one another, relationships. So I want us to turn to one another. During my recent medical leave, I have benefited so much from your cards, your calls, your meals, your gifts, your emails, your healing, caring words. These greatly have accelerated my attitude and indeed experience of being a whole person. I'm a whole person with a broken hip. And I thank you. Benefits like this will only make a difference if they are given and received. Like the water we're about ready to bring forth and commingle in this bowl, may we too mix and mingle in diverse and powerful ways. After all, we are far more than the sum of our individual parts. We are stronger, we are more loving, we are infinitely more transforming when we are together. I'm going to turn off the spigot now. And what I would like to see is those of you who are comfortable and willing to find a way to come down this center aisle. And if you have brought water with you, to contribute it to the bowl. I don't see a pitcher up here, so I'm going to contribute my water right here. If you didn't bring any, you can pour some of that in there. And I'm going to seed this bowl right here. I poured some water in one of my medicine bottles today because I've been taking a little bit of medicine lately. I did rinse it out well. So come forward while Jaime plays some beautiful music, and be mindful of your spaciousness, and let's fill this bowl with our commingled waters. I've got a reflective reading for us by Kaylee Rice. It's called All Rivers Run to the Sea. It starts with a drop, then a trickle, a burble, a rush of water bubbling toward its destination, and finally to the wide, endless sea. All rivers run to the sea. Today, you brought water, poured it into a common bowl, And though our experiences of this water and its gathering and all of the memories around it are different, these waters mingle, signifying our common humanity. Today, you came and shared in this sacred space with this sacred community. And as we leave, may you depart this sacred space, hearts filled with hopes for new beginnings, a fresh start. And I invite you to go forth. But please return to this community, our community, your community. Go forth, but return to this community where rivers of tears may be shed, where dry souls can be watered, where joy can bubble, where your life's cup can overflow, where deep in your spirit you have found in this place a home. All rivers run to the sea. We have a closing hymn to sing together about rivers. Number 1007 in your teal hymnal. And if you feel up to it, rise in body or spirit and join with our choir dispersed around the sanctuary. Number 1007. Go ahead and have a seat. I've got a few thank yous to say, and as we extinguish our chalice, David, would you mind extinguishing our chalice? Let's remember, there's a river flowing in our souls, and it's telling us that we're somebody. A river flowing in our souls. May the concentric circles of our contributions to our water communion reflect the real and present influences that we all are for each other. And as we begin this new church year, may we be mindful of those connections. May they fuel our hearts, our minds, our creativity, our very lives. And as we go from here, let's love as though that is the priority of our lives. Shalom, Ashe, Namaste, blessed be. And thanks to all who contributed to this service, our greeters and ushers, so good to see you again. Our choir, oh my God, us. Our lay reader, Esperanza Garza-Danweber, our chalice lighter, and General You Get It Done, David Rodriguez. Our children, our RE staff, Dr. Sherry Philibom, our artist in residence, Jaime Ramirez. Our staff, our audio-visual technicians. Thank you, Ron Meneses, Gary Evans, and Dana Clark. Yes. Dr. Susan Dill, oh yes, thank you so much for leading our choir and our music. Let's enjoy a little postlude music as we exit. Thank you again, Jaime. And all y'all who have been assembled online, I hope this was a good experience for you. It's only going to get better. Please join in the Zoom link for your coffee hour. And for those of you fortunate and risk-taking enough to be here with us, let's get on outside where we can have some beverages that you'll find on the patio, where we can connect, greet, meet, and have conversations. Please take good care. Jaime.